You might have heard of Koch Industries. The company had a revenue of $115 billion in 2019, which would have put it around the top 50 companies in the world by revenue if it was on the stock market. For reference, Ford had a revenue of $130 billion and General Motors $122 billion in 2021. Sadly though, for us, the company is private. Koch Industries started out in the oil industry, but has since then expanded into multiple sources of revenue, and according to Wikipedia, they are involved in manufacturing, refining, and distribution of petroleum, chemicals, energy, fiber, intermediates, and polymers, minerals, fertilizers, pulp, paper, chemical and trading equipment, ranching, finance, commodities trading, and investing. So all in all, quite a diverse conglomerate. The secret to Koch Industries, according to the CEO and chairman of the company, Charles Koch, is market-based management, MBM for short. Koch explains what market-based management is in his book, Good Profits. And this is what I will summarize for you today. Market-based management is the business philosophy and culture that Koch has developed and implemented during his time at the company. In short, MBM is a kind of laissez-faire management style. Koch summarizes it the following way. Market-based management emphasizes principled entrepreneurship over corporate welfare, virtue over talent, challenge over hierarchy, comparative advantage over job title, and rewards for long-term value creation over managing to budgets. Koch seems to quote Ludvig von Mises more than any other author, and you can understand that he has been a major impact on his worldview. MBM strives to develop a framework of freedom that individuals can apply their strengths to in order to improve their lives by improving the lives of others, which really is the key message of Mises. In Koch's view of the world, we need to constantly innovate and embrace creative destruction as a force in the universe. This means that we must constantly strive to find new and better ways of doing business and making money. Koch, always the libertarian, trusts the market to know what it wants. Channeling Schumpeter, he says the continuous improvements are good, but in the end, they just end up making incremental improvements to an existing product, market, or process. Creative destruction, on the other hand, strives to find new and better ways, making the old ways obsolete. You can really argue that this is why Apple is the world's biggest company today, and not Nokia. I find this passage of the book very interesting. The point is that progress, whether in business, an economy, or science, comes through experimentation and failure. Those who favor a grand plan over experimentation fail to understand that the role that failed experiments play in creating progress in society. Failures quickly and efficiently signal what doesn't work, minimizing waste and redirecting scarce resources to what does work. So this sets the landscape and the philosophical thoughts to MBM. But enough introduction. What is actually MBM? MBM at Koch Industry can be broken down into 5 different areas: vision, virtue and talents, knowledge processes, decision rights, and incentives. Let's start with the vision. The word vision to me instantly conjures up images of overpaid consultants and corporate suits. However, it does set the important first steps when explaining MBM. The vision should provide 2 things for a company. First, it should guide the behaviors of the company. The second is that it should provide a strategic guide that is more of a general direction instead of a destination. If you want to be poetic, you can call it more of a North Star than a map. A vision should describe how an organization can create superior value for its customers. It should base this superior value creation on a realistic assessment of what the company can do very well in order to outperform competitors. It should then serve as a guide for when other opportunities come up, where a combination of the capabilities and customer value align so that it can be taken advantage of. Thinking like this allows for a vision that compounds over time. And we all know and love the magic that is compounding. The second area is virtue and talents. The focus when hiring new staff should not be on their skills, but rather on the values that they possess. The reason for this being that skilled people with rotten values can do far more damage than unskilled people with good values. I mean, this does sound great in theory, but I would still suspect there is a minimum of skills required for certain roles. The point is that hiring employees should not mainly be on the skills. The hiring should match the culture and values, even if there isn't an open position. A position can often be found after the fact. There is a lot else in this chapter, but I'm gonna blow over most of it. I feel that it's mostly corporate fluff. Knowledge processes. Koch, like any good libertarian, strongly believes that societies are the most prosperous when knowledge is plentiful and free. And this is achieved by freedom of speech and trade based on mutual gain. People make exchanges when they expect to increase their well-being. Prices are the objective measure of the value of a business and its contribution to society. The knowledge process attempts to replicate this in the company. Sharing information freely allows everyone to understand why and what is profitable inside the company. This knowledge can then inform vision, strategy, and leads to innovation and opportunities. An important aspect when sharing this knowledge is that the company must be measured on the correct things. Measuring the wrong or unnecessary things is wasteful. Simplify as much as possible. Accuracy should also be emphasized, but perfection should not. Perfection is the enemy of progress. Decision rights. Once again, Koch's libertarian philosophy sets the stage for this part. The thought here is that consumers direct the owner's use of the property. So if someone serves the consumers well, their property rights increases. Market-based management emulates this by having decision-making done by people who've demonstrated good decisions in the past, not by pay grade or title. Koch believes that in any size of business, decision rights need to be continuously earned, and that lack of authority can never be considered an excuse for inaction. With this in mind, expecting everyone in the company to instinctively take the right decisions all the time is a bit folly. And there is a decision toolbox which outlines 8 steps to take when you face a decision. They are the following. First, describe the authority being requested. Second, give the background and a summary of the value proposition. Third, outline the objective with the strategic fit. 4. Prepare an economic summary including the base case, bull case, and the bear case. 5. Identify the key value drivers. 6. Describe the key risks and the mitigants. 7. List the alternatives and why the shown one is the best option. 8. Project a timeline for future steps. Additionally, another equally important step is to avoid common traps when making decisions. The common traps are as follows. Overconfidence, framing questions to allow biases, anchoring on irrelevant information, status quo and wanting things to stay the same, counting sunk costs. They encourage decisions to be based on past expenditures and not on future prospects. Confirmation bias, being influenced by dramatic events in the past. Having a personal risk profile that's not aligning with the company risk profile. The fifth and the final area of the MBM is incentives. The important thing with incentives is that they can be both good and bad, so care must be taken to make sure that only beneficial incentives are included. Koch believes that most reward systems in the corporate world today relies on rigid pay structures, number of direct reports, credentials to provide a suggested compensation for a position. He believes that this limits innovation, discovery, and entrepreneurial behaviors by the employees. Instead, it creates a negative incentive to build entitlement, bureaucracies, and risk avoidance. In order to get around this, MBM enforces rewards for specific contributions and results. Care must also be taken to not consider all failures of employees as a bad thing. Much can be learned from a failure, almost the same as you can learn from a success. There is a story in the book about Thomas Edison that visualizes this. After nearly 10,000 failed experiments in developing a new battery, Thomas Edison was once asked, "Isn't it a shame? You haven't been able to get any results." Edison replied, "I've gotten a lot of results. I know several thousand things that won't work." Meaning that even though he doesn't have something physical to show for his efforts, he does have a lot of knowledge gained from it. Another great thing for Koch Industries is that they're a private company, so they don't need to consider the next quarterly period. Things that can drive a better quarter might be better for Wall Street, but not always the company. So in conclusion, it's very interesting to see the thoughts of one of the world's greatest minds when it comes to industry and business explain his thinking and influences. All in all, I feel that the book is a very inspirational read on how to manage larger teams and companies. There is no arguing the fact that Koch is a very intelligent man, and reading his words and thoughts of the world in itself is a gift. The most interesting parts for me, however, are the parts relating to decision rights and incentives. I feel like a lot of what drives human behavior and psychology is captured right there. In general, though, I don't feel that there is a lot in this book that I can use in my everyday life. And again, I'm not a CEO of a multinational company, so maybe that's the problem. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned something today.